First, let's have a look at the lower body and the hips. Many of us spend a good chunk of our day seated, and it's that modern sedentary lifestyle that really tightens up the hip flexors and the hamstrings. And BJJ can actually add to that. If, for example, you spend a lot of time on your back with your knees and feet elevated, maybe someone's in your guard, maybe you're trying to throw up triangles, this will really tighten up your hips. So here's how to counter that. The first stretch I want you to do is the 90-90 pigeon stretch. Sit down, bring your knees into the position where you've got 90 degree in this knee, 90 degree in the hips, 90 degree in the other knee. Try to bring your knees down to the ground, and then you try to bend over. You want to bring your chest down towards the knee and really feel that stretch through your glutes and external rotators on the right side. Then we're going to glue the heels down into the ground. We're going to transition over to the other side. If you can do this without your hands, that's great. Otherwise, you're just going to place the hands behind you and it's going to make it a lot easier. And then we do the same thing on this side. Try to bring your spine parallel here to the thigh, chest down towards the knee. Again, you'll feel this in your glutes, your external rotators. But also, as we're going through this from side to side, we're opening up the hips and we're mobilizing the hips as well. The half kneeling hip flexor stretch doesn't need much of an intro. We're going to stretch the hip flexors in that half kneeling position. So get down on one knee, extending the left hip, squeezing the left glute, elevating the left arm, and crunching across towards the right. There is a variation of this that targets a little bit more of the quads as well. Reach for the rear foot. And now the principle is the same. Suck the belly button in, keep that core engaged, squeeze the glutes on the same side where your knee is planted, then drive the hips forward as you're pulling that heel in towards your glutes, and you feel a nice stretch in your quads, but also all the way into the hip. All right, this one's very similar to the half kneeling hip flexor stretch, but we're going to focus a little bit more on the adductors here, on that groin area. So again, we get into that half kneeling position. I'm down on my right knee, and instead of having both my knees or both my hips facing this way, I'm going to actually pivot. So my right knee or my right hip is pointing towards the camera. My left knee is pointing out to the side here. From here, shift your weight into that front foot here, and you're going to feel a nice stretch on the inner thigh and adductor area here. These two stretches can be combined. I would maybe do the version with the foot elevated. I'm gonna hold this for a moment, stretch it here, then I can just bring the foot down, pivot, and then I can do the same for my adductors. At the same time, by the way, you're also gonna improve your ankle mobility here. So you can really post on that front leg, and you can try to drive that knee past the toes as you're keeping the heel on the ground. And then we've got another one for the adductors. So if you feel like your hips are really tight, it's really hard for you to open up the hips, then this is one stretch that you definitely want to do more often. You sit down on the butt, you pull your feet in, your heels in towards your groin. Don't pull from your toes here, pull from the bottom of the shin here, just above your ankle. Use your elbows to flare the legs out to the floor. And now, important part, straighten out your spine. So as you are sort of rowing your legs in, bring your chest out, and let me give you the side view of this so you can see what I mean. I'm not doing this. I'm trying to bring my chest out proud, straighten out my back, flare the legs down, then I'm hinging forward. So I'm hinging from the hip, coming forward, feeling a nice stretch in my adductors, really opening up my hips. Chest out, row your legs back, heels towards the groin, flare the legs out, then hinge forward with that straight back. And last but not least, let's look after those hamstrings. Simple stretch, you sit down, legs out in front of you, try to drive the back of your knee down into the ground so that you really straighten out those legs and pull the toes in towards you. Now, instead of just rounding off and trying to reach the toes, I want you to try to focus on, again, keeping your spine neutral and hinging from the hip. You won't be able to reach that far, but as you are driving the knees down into the ground, pulling the toes in towards you, you really focus on those hamstrings and calves. You will really feel it. Try it and try the difference as well. Round off, lean forward, then keep your back straight, the chest out, and really hinge from the hip. Whew. Such a difference. So now let's look at that second problem area, the shoulders and the neck. We all know the hunchback desk posture with the hyperkyphosis or rounded upper back, internally rotated shoulders. And again, BJJ can add to this. We spend a lot of time shrugging up the shoulders, rolling them forward to hide the neck. We have people push, pull, frame on our head, and we're trying to resist that force. And this can really tighten up the neck muscles as well as the muscles in the upper back, the traps, and also around the shoulders. So here's how to fix that. The first stretch for the upper body is the child pose. Believe it or not, sometimes tight lats can actually lead to internally rotated shoulders and to tight shoulders because the lats attach up here on the humerus bone. Sit back on your heels and you want to widen your knees to allow for enough space for your upper body to come down towards the ground. What we're gonna do from here is very simple. You've seen it before, I'm sure. You're just gonna walk your hands out in front of you. Let me go sideways a little bit so that I'm on screen. Keep your hips back as you're walking your hands away from your hips. So you're separating your hands and your hips. Quick little variation of this. That's gonna shift the stretch a little bit more towards the outside. Hand back on one ankle, and then the other arm across at about a 30-degree angle from that midline here, and then walk it out and across, again, keeping the hips back. With this child pose stretch, you want to try to bring your nose, your chest, your armpits down towards the ground and really sink into this stretch. I mentioned those internally rotated shoulders, shrugging up, that really tightens up your pecs, it tightens up your shoulders, and keeping the arms up like this can also really tighten up the biceps. So let's target all these three muscle groups. We're going to sit down, hands behind us, fingers pointing behind, thumbs pointing out to the side. You can have your legs flat, you can have them bent, it doesn't really matter. I'll give you that front view or a bit of a different angle here as well. And then what we want to do from here is really bring the chest out, bring the rib cage out, even bring the belly button out, distort the body. It doesn't look flattering, but it really does the job. The further back you place your hands, the more you'll feel it open up. Bring your shoulder blades together, but don't shrug up, don't sink back with your head. Try to keep your neck, your head out. Shoulders down, shoulder blades together, and enjoy that stretch through the pecs, the delts, and the biceps. You can again add a little twist here. Literally, you're going to look behind your right shoulder and you're going to allow your left shoulder to travel around a little bit so that the stretch shifts more towards the left shoulder. And then same thing here, if you look behind the left shoulder and the right shoulder travels around a little bit more, then you feel it more on your right shoulder. The thread the needle stretch on all fours is great to improve that thoracic mobility, thoracic rotation, but also to stretch out the back of the shoulder and the upper back. You get down on all fours, hands underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. All you're gonna do from here is thread the needle. So you're gonna thread the right arm through as far as you can. You're gonna glue the right hand, the back of the hand to the floor, and then you sort of try to pull the arm, the hand back out from the shoulder, but it's stuck. And then let's finish up with two stretches for the neck and upper traps. The first one is bringing one hand down to the ground, or yeah, you can stand and just push the hand down. What we want to focus on is bringing that shoulder down away from the ear. You can even sit on that hand here, and then we're going to reach over to the opposite ear here. And then we're going to tilt the head sideways, very careful here, very gentle, and just bring that ear here towards the shoulder. So we're going to gently pull over and also be gentle as you release this stretch. You can change the angle here slightly, so you can go more behind the ear and pull across so that this nose, we only have one, but yeah, the nose comes down towards the armpit, you're pulling more across, and you're targeting a little bit more of the levator scapula here. One little muscle that runs down the neck that can also sometimes cause some trouble around the shoulder blades. Speaking from experience there, I often have that after some like tough scrambles and rolls. I feel that pain around the shoulder blade and then it's sort of radiating up into the neck. Another one that's great to really release the erectors, the muscles along the spine, but also all those muscles, the upper traps, the neck muscles, is bringing that chin in towards the chest, pointing the elbows forward. You're going to connect your fingers, bring them to the back of the head, just at the bottom of the occipital bone here, so just above the cervical spine, just at the bottom of the skull, I could say. And then you're going to gently pull that chin. I don't know how well you can hear me here with the microphone, but you're going to gently pull that chin in towards the chest, really trying to bring the elbows together in front of you. So really separating the shoulder blades, and then you can even roll up in a ball and you'll feel that stretch running down your spine as well. You really want to focus on driving the shoulder blades apart and forward and bringing the elbows together. And that wraps up this video. These were my top 10 stretches for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Make sure you drop a like and a comment if you found the video helpful, and let me know if you have any other questions about Jiu-Jitsu specific training. I'll make sure to touch on that in future videos. If you don't want to miss those, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.